Good morning, everybody. We'll start in just a moment. I see there are some who are still joining us from the waiting room. All right, let's get going. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Kli Yakar on Parshat Naso. The Kli Yakar on this week's Parsha has a bit of everything. There's something for everybody here. If you prefer Pshat or Remez or Drush or Sod, there's going to be a bit of everything. Don't worry, not too much Sod. Some really, really nice Remez. And along the way, the Kli Yakar is going to mention some more classic concepts and some classic ideas, but he is going to give a twist and a novel explanation, ways which we may not have necessarily understood these things before. In order to understand the first section of the Kli Yakar on this week's Parsha, we need to look at three psukim which introduce three brothers. And we have to look at the end of last week's Parsha. So source number one is from the end of Parshat Bamidbar, the final section there. And there it says, Naso et Rosh b'nei Kehat. We have the word Naso, which is the name of this week's Parsha, but it's a word which appeared in last week's Parsha. Count the heads of the sons of Kehat, mitoch b'nei Levi, from the sons of Levi, l'mishpachotam leveit avotam, according to their families, according to their households. Now in source number two, we come to the beginning of this week's Parsha. Of course, I've missed out psukim in between. In source number two, we start off this week's Parsha. Naso et Rosh b'nei Gershon gam haim, count the heads of the sons of Gershon, them too. Leveit avotam lemishpachotam, according to their families, according to their households, according to their families. And then in source number three, b'nei Merari, in the continuation of this week's Parsha, when it comes to the sons of Merari, lemishpachotam leveit avotam, according to their families, according to their households, tifkod otam, count them. I would like you please to unmute yourselves and to ask 4 questions about these psukim. Some of them I've given you slight colorful clues about, but please ask 4 questions about these 3 psukim, the way these 3 brothers or these 3 groups are introduced.
It doesn't say by Merari, it doesn't
question
say
number 1.
Hello?
The order of Mishpatam and Beit Avotam is reversed for Gershon.
Sorry. Sorry, my computer was, my sound was off. So I'm assuming you've already asked all 4 questions. I haven't heard you yet. I'm sorry. Please start again with question number 1.
The order of Beit Avotam and Mishpatam is reversed for Gershon.
Thank you. So Shalamit has brought question number 1, the one that the Kli Yakar talks about that we're not going to focus on today. Note how for B'nai Kehat it says, L'mishpachatam leveit avotam, first families, then fathers' households. And it's the same for Merari at the end. But for
Kehat it says mitoch b'nei Levi.
Sorry?
For Kehat it says mitoch b'nei Levi.
Yes, mitoch b'nei Levi for Kehat. That doesn't appear for the other 2. All right, so that'll be question number 5. And let's go for questions. Let's do 3 more questions.
From Merari, it doesn't say the word Naso.
Very good. So Naso is for Kehat. Naso is for Gershon. In source number 3, there's no Naso for the sons of Merari. 2 more questions. 1 in green and 1 in blue.
Kehat. Tifkod otam for Merari, but doesn't say for the other ones. It says.
All right, but that's probably connected to the Naso. So we have some instruction.
It doesn't say et Rosh for the 3rd one.
Okay, because again, that's still part of Naso. It's a different expression of count. It's Naso et Rosh for the first 2, as opposed to the 3rd one where it is Tifkod or Tam.
Gam Haim is added for,
yes.
which
Gershon.
is superfluous. Yeah,
so for Gershon in the middle it says Gam Hem, them too, which is very good. Somebody has put the right answer in the chat. I'm concerned that I might not be a woman, so I'm going to allow ladies to get this right. Question number 3.
The order of age.
Correct. The order of age. What is the correct
Gershon,
order
Kehat, and
of the
Merari, it
sons?
should be.
It is Gershon, Kehat, and Merari. But look at the order that they're listed. It is Kehat,
That's it.
and then it's Gershon 2, and then Merari. So this week's Parsha starts off by Daber Hashem El Moshe Lemor, then source number 2, Naso et Rosh Bnei Gershon Gamhem, count the sons of Gershon, them too. But we have to understand this in the context that the younger brother Kehat was counted first at the end of last week's Parsha. Naso, the word for counting of uplifting, elevating, only appears for Kehat and Gershon, not for Merari. Gamhem appears for Gershon, which somehow ties him into Kehat earlier. What's going on there? We haven't discussed Leveit Avotam Mishpachotam. We're not going to look at that one today. And what was question number 5, which somebody mentioned? Mitoch B'nai Levi, from B'nai Levi, although that would have made sense in the context of last week's Parsha. Having looked at all of those questions, there's one more piece of background we need to look at before studying the Kli Yakar on this section, which is a midrash in source number 4. Source number 4 is the midrash rabbah as follows. Naso et Rosh B'nai Gershon, etc. Hu hada dichtiv. That is that which it says in Mishlei, Yikarahi mipnenim, it is more valuable than pearls, v'kol chafatzecha lo yishvu ba, and all of your property, all of your belongings will not be equal to it in value. Now, this is a classic thing for a midrash to do. A midrash will start off with a pasuk. It'll start off with a pasuk from somewhere in Nach, and then it'll go back and show how our pasuk here is parallel to that which happens there. Now, the pasuk Yekarahi mipnimim might have alerted the Kli Yakar more than other pasukim because it is Yekara, it is precious. And the Kli Yakar, who likes things being Yakar, maybe he would have been extra drawn to this pasuk. Either way, what's the connection between what we saw in those pasukim and the proverb, it is more valuable than pearls? And I've jumped to the explanation which is relevant to us, second paragraph, the source 4, Davar Acher, Yekarahi mipnenim medaber b'kehat v'gershon. This is a reference to Kehat and Gershon. Why? Af al pisha Gershon b'chor, even though Gershon is the firstborn. Umatzinu sheb'chol makom chilek hakatuv kavod leb'chor. Generally speaking, the Torah gives honor to the firstborn. Nevertheless, Lefi shaya Kehat to'en ha'aron, because Kehat would lift the Aron, shesham ha'Torah, which held the Torah. Hikdimu hakatuv leGershon. Kehat was placed ahead of Gershon. Shebetchila amar naso et rosh b'nei Kehat. It starts off by saying, count the sons of b'nei Kehat, because they carried the Aron. V'achar kach omer, and then in this week's parasha, naso et rosh b'nei Gershon, count b'nei Gershon too. Have a yikarahi mipninim, and this is parallel to the proverb, it is more valuable than peninim. Why? What does peninim mean? Peninim is a reference to mebachor sheyatza rishon, from the firstborn who came out first. Why? Ve'ein peninim ela techila. The word peninim actually means to commence, to come first. Kamadatema, as we saw in Megillat Ruth, chapter 4, V'zot lefanim beYisrael. This is what comes first in Israel. So, lefanim, lifnei can mean before, and therefore, the Midrash in Bamidbar Rabbah says, Yekarahi mipninim means Yekarahi, Torah is more precious, mipninim, than coming first. Meaning, Torah is more valuable than Bechorah. That is what is meant by the proverb that it is more valuable than peninim. All of that was an introduction. Now we're ready to learn the Kli Yakar in source number 5. Naso et Rosh B'nei Gershon. The Kli Yakar asks, Haya lo limnot tchilat b'nei Gershon ha-bechor. It should have counted the sons of Gershon the Bechor first. Uma sheratzu letaken ze b'midrash harabati, and that which we saw in the midrash, where they tried to explain lomar shelefi nimsar masah Aaron el Kehat, because the carrying of the Aaron was given to Kehat. Al kain menaot tchila lechavot Aaron. He was listed first in order to show respect to the Aaron. Iguf akashya. That itself is problematic. Why? Lama lo masar masah Aaron el bechor lechvodo lechabdo biyoter sedvaos haTorah asher la mishpat habechorah. You should have just given the Torah, the Aaron, to the firstborn. which would have been kavod for the firstborn, and it is kavod for the Torah, that the Torah should be carried by the firstborn. So it's all well and good to say that Kehat came ahead of Gershon because he carried the Torah. But the Kli Yakar says we still got some explaining to do. Why was the Torah not given to the firstborn? And the Kli Yakar will give his own explanation and then another explanation, which doesn't contradict, but he feels fits in better with the Midrash. Second paragraph of source 5. V'hakarov elai lomar bazeh. I think it makes the most sense to say, Sheratzah HaKadosh Baruch Hu harot shekavod chachamim yinchalu. Another stylistic quotation, that our sages will receive kavod. You see, the Torah is trying to make a point that kavod belongs to those who study Torah. In order to teach the people to respect those who study Torah. The same way that Kehat was counted first. Because he carried the word of Hashem, which he had. Carrying the Aron is an image for carrying the Torah within oneself. Now, you wouldn't have achieved that if that was given to the firstborn. If the Torah, meaning the Aron, was given to the firstborn Gershon to carry, I would have said, well, why is the order Gershon, Kehat, and Merari? Because that's the order. Gershon's the firstborn. It's because Gershon was the firstborn that he was listed and counted first. I wouldn't have said Gershon goes first because of the Torah. We wouldn't have achieved that message if Torah was given to the firstborn to carry. Al-Kain Masar Ha'aron El Kehat. Therefore, there's an intentional change in the order here. And the Torah was given to Kehat U'Manaot Chila, and he was counted first. V'yed'u hakol liten kavod la Torah u'lelomdeha. Everybody would know to give kavod to the Torah and those who study Torah. This is the Kli Yakar in classic Kli Yakar style, taking an approach which is against elitism and saying, don't worry about the bechorah or inherited rights. The kavod belongs to those who study Torah. But he still wants to fit this in with the pasuk, and he goes on to say, Ach, however, Mitasamach Baal HaMidrash Inyan Zeh LePasuk Yekarahi Mipnimnim. Because the author of this Midrash juxtaposes or wants to connect our context to the pasuk, the phrase that it is more valuable than Peninim, Kede'ita Barabati, as appears in the Midrash. Vadai Kavanato Lahorot, he's making a very specific point about the supremacy of Torah, which is Sheketer Torah Hefker Lakol. I mentioned this in my Thursday night shiur a week and a half ago, that the crown of Torah is available to everybody. Va'al Kainan, therefore, Lo Nitan Ha'aron Ela Bechor, the Aron representing Torah was not given to the firstborn, Shelo Yeh Tifrato Lomar, so that he wouldn't glorify himself, saying, Ani ra'oi leketer Torah. Why do I get the crown of Torah? Yetem uzulati, more than anyone else, because I'm the firstborn. No. Ela hakol shavin ba. We have an expression here of the democratization of Torah and the knowledge of Torah. Torah does not belong to the firstborns. Torah does not belong to inherited privilege. Torah belongs to everybody. That's why it says Yekarahi Mipninim. Torah is greater than Peninim. Now, let's remember from the Midrash and Avot and other sources as well, there are three crowns: the crown of Torah, the crown of royalty, and the crown of Kehuna. And let's see how the word Peninim plays with this concept. Torah is more valuable than Peninim. That means, number one, Hainu Mikohen Gadol. Peninim is a reference to the Kohen Gadol. How is the word Peninim a reference to Kohen Gadol? Shenichnas lifnai velifnim. Because the Kohen Gadol enters the innermost sanctuary. Peninim lifnai velifnim. What it's saying is that Torah is more valuable than Kehuna, than the Kohen Gadol who can enter. Ki lekete kehuna ein zocheh ki mishu mizer Aaron. The crown of priesthood is only for somebody who's born into that family. Aval keter Torah hefker lakol, but anybody can come along and claim the crown of Torah. V'hakol zochin elav, and everybody can merit it. That's number one. Number 2, v'yikarahi mipninim. It is more valuable than peninim, miketa malchut, from a royal crown. Sheyesh lo zahav v'rav peninim, which has gold and all these jewels on it. Ve'ein zocher bo ki mishu mizera David, and you can only take that crown if you're of the offspring of David. Aval haketa Torah hakol zochin, everyone can take the crown of Torah. U'mita'am zeh darash barabati yikarahi mipninim. That's why the Midrash expounds and connects our pasuk to the pasuk in Mishlei of it is more valuable than peninim. Peninim means bechorah, coming first. Peninim means kehuna, because you go lifnai velifnim. Peninim means royalty, because they have jewels on their crown. Torah beats all of those. Mina bechorah, the Midrash says it's better than bechorah, which is the inherited privilege, like royalty. And kehuna, kamada atamar v'zot lefanim b'Yisrael, like it says in Ruth, coming first in Israel. So, to summarize the first thing we have learned today in the Kli Yakar, why is the order reversed? Instead of it being Gershon, Kehat, Merari, it goes Kehat, Gershon, Merari, because Kehat carried the Torah. Why did we need to do that? Just give the Torah to Gershon, who was the firstborn, and you would have achieved kavod for the Torah and kavod for the firstborn. The problem is, if Torah would have been given to the firstborn, number 1, we never would have learned that message. We would have said the order is Gershon Kehat difference. And number 2 is to teach us, not only because it wants this message, it specifically wants us to know that Torah is not an inherited privilege. Torah does not belong to an elite few. Torah belongs to every single one of us. Let's move on to the top of page 2 to another couple of differences before we move on to a different topic. V'ne'emar lashon naso. This was up in yellow. The expression of naso appears bivnei Kehat or bivnei Gershon with the first 2. V'lo bivnei Merari, and it's not mentioned with Merari. Why? Because both Gershon and Kehat had an advantage over Merari. Kehat had an advantage mitzad Masah Aaron because he lifted the Aaron. So it's Naso et Rosh B'nei Kehat. Elevate the heads of the son of Kehat to carry the Aaron. V'Gershon mitzad haBechorah, you uplift the heads of Gershon. Shemasa'o haya yoter mekudash min masa b'nei Merari shaya pachot b'chulam. And also what Gershon carried, it wasn't the Torah, but he got more than Merari in terms of value. Al kein lo hiskir ela etzlo lashon naso. The word naso is not mentioned for Merari because he was not the Bechor. He didn't carry Torah, and what he was carrying was very special, but not as special as the others. The final point, Gam Hem. Over there at Tisha B'Av, now we can understand at the beginning of this week's Parsha, Gam Kein Mash Amar Gam Hem. Why it says Gam Hem, count the sons of Gershon, them too. V'lo Amar Gam Otam. It doesn't say Gam Otam. What's going on here? Ela Sharatzah Lomar, it wants to tell us, hello, Gam Hem Ayesh Lahem Yitaron. Yes, Naso also applies to the sons of Gershon. Asher mitzidohem ruyin l'nesiut rosh, because they're inherently appropriate to be uplifted in this way. V'hainu ha'bechorah ka'amor, which is the bechorah, as we have said. So just jumping back to the beginning, let's look at this slide. We start off at the end of last week's Parsha. Naso et Rosh B'nei Kehat mitoch b'nei Levi l'mishpachotam lebeit avotam. We start off with the sons of Kehat. They are Naso because it's Torah. Then it's Naso et Rosh B'nei Gershon. Gam Hem B'nei Gershon. They should also be uplifted. They're the firstborns. And then we have B'nei Merari, who were very special, but just not as special. The Kli Yakar then went on to discuss the difference in the Mishpachotam and the Mishpachotam Leveit Avotam, which I did not bring this morning because I'd like to look at other things as well. We are now into source number 6 on the topic of the Nazir. Amongst the laws of the Nazirite, we read, V'chiyamut met alav befeta pitom. This poor fellow, he's a Nazir. He accepts upon himself certain stringencies because he wants to reach an elevated status of spirituality. And what can you do? somebody passes away in his vicinity suddenly. V'timei rosh nizra, and the head of his nazer, meaning his whole process, has become impure. V'gilach rosha b'yom taharata b'yom hashvi'i yigalchenu. He goes through a purification process, and on the 7th day, the day of his purification, he needs to shave his head. V'yom hashmini, then he comes along on the 8th day. Yavi shtei torim o shtei b'nei yonah. He brings 2 birds of different kinds. El hakohen, to the kohen. El petach ohel moed, to the entrance of the ohel moed. So he's brought either 2 torim or 2 b'nei yonah. Now, what does the kohen do with these 2 birds? V'asa kohen echad lechatat. One of these birds is a sin offering. Ve'echad le'olah, and one is a burnt offering. V'chiper alav, and he will be atoned for. Me'asher chata al hanefesh, because he sinned for the soul with the soul. V'kidash et rosho bayom ahu, and on that day his head should be sanctified. What we're now going to see is a classic concept, which is usually taught in the context of the Nazir. The Kli Yakar will ask a question against this classic concept, and it'll provide us then with a more nuanced approach to this Nazir. The concept of Nazirut, the concept of taking on extra stringencies in order to reach higher spiritual levels. So in source number 7, the Kli Yakar tells us, he's going to be atoned for because he sinned for his soul. What happened? Shalon is harm in Tumat Hamet, because he wasn't careful to avoid Tumat Hamet. Now, we're going to focus on the opinion of Rabbi Elazar HaKapar, because Rabbi Elazar HaKapar Omer says, Al Shetzi'er Atzmo Min Hayayin. Why does the Nazir bring a sin offering? Because he caused himself pain by not having wine. Now, this is a general concept. People say the Nazir brings a sin offering. Why? Because Hashem gave us this world to enjoy. Hashem gave us the pleasures of this world to partake in. And the Nazir has avoided pleasure in this world, has denied himself taking part in that which Hashem has given us, and therefore the Nazir needs to bring a sin offering. That's a classic concept which many of you or all of you may have heard before. But the Kli Yakar is now going to ask against this concept, and some of these questions may have crossed your minds before. He says, V'hu pil'i, this opinion of Rabbi Elazar in the Gemara in Nazir 3a is just astounding to consider. Ki yesh lahafli al dvarav, we really need to ask against what he says. She'im nitztava lav ishtei torim al shetzi'er atzmo min hayayin, if the reason why he needs to bring these 2 birds is because he didn't enjoy wine, he inflicted himself in that way. Lama mevi kapara zo davka achar shenitma b'meit. Why is it only in a specific context? Once he became impure in the process of his Nazirut, that he has to bring a sin offering. You see, if the concept of being a Nazir is an inherently problematic concept, that he hasn't allowed himself to have wine, then every Nazir should bring a sin offering. Not only if he suddenly became a Tamei Mate in the middle, every Nazir should have it. That's question number 1. Question number 2, V'od, Shekatuv Karo Kodesh, the Torah calls the Nazir a holy person. How can he be called a choteh? You may have thought of this before. On the one hand, the Torah gives prominence to the Nazir, gives importance to the Nazir, praises the Nazir. He's called Kadosh. That's a very big thing. So if being a Nazir is so Kadosh, why is he called a choteh, a sinner, by Rabbi Elazar? Really what the Kli Yakar is asking here is, what should our approach to the Nazir be? And what should our approach to Nazirut be as well? And we're going to have a few different approaches. Approach number 1. V'nireh appears. Rabbi Elazar modeh shekol yamehem sheziratohu nikra kadosh. Even Rabbi Elazar, who says he brings a sin offering because he's done something wrong, agrees that throughout his process, he's called kadosh. V'lo choteh. Normally speaking, a Nazir is a good guy. More than a good guy. He's a special guy. He wants to come closer to Hashem. Ki nazir elokim hu, because he is a Nazir to Hashem. Omnam, however, im nitma b'met, if he becomes impure during that process, which means that the process until now has become cancelled out because of his new impurity. To start all over again. Actively, we see that his first process weren't even proper Nazirut, meaning if he was a Nazirut said he was going to be a Nazir for a period of time, in the middle of that period he becomes impure. It's not that he succeeded for a while and then he has to start again. No, retroactively that was all a waste of time. During that time he actually did not achieve Nazirut. And therefore, if you're out of the game in the middle, it's as if during that first process, you've abstained from wine and caused yourself pain for no reason, because it didn't help you, because you didn't finish off the process. That's why you're called a choter in that circumstance. What you achieved in that time, nothing other than pain. Below Nazirut Viktusha. Can you still hear me? Sorry, I have some internet challenges now. Please wave if you can hear me. Great, you can hear me. So, he's achieved nothing in that time. V'zeh Perush Yakar. That is a valuable Perush. Now, why does the Kli Yakar call this a Perush Yakar? What attracted him to this Perush? It's a lovely idea. In the first period, you achieved nothing. Maybe we can explain as follows. Maybe the Kli Yakar enjoyed the concept that you can have an individual who takes on extra stringencies and behaves as if they're on a higher spiritual level when really what they are doing is inherently lacking and they are wasting their time. Maybe the Kli Yakar viewed this as an opportunity to comment on those in his generation who were like the Nazirim, who were showing how holy they were, who were showing off that they were reaching this higher elevated status, but there was something inherently lacking with that process. What the Kli Yakar is saying is that it's possible to take on extra stringencies and to become kadosh, to reach a higher spiritual level. And he says it's also possible to take on extra stringencies and to be completely wasting your time. And the only thing you are achieving is not true holiness, but all you're doing is causing yourself pain along the way. Maybe that's why the Kli Yakar considered it a Perush Yakar. Either way, he acknowledges that you don't have to explain it that way. Approach number 2. Omnam, however, maybe we can explain Rabbi Elazar differently. Let's remember, Rabbi Elazar said that the Nazir brings a sin offering because he's denied himself pleasure in this world. V'lomar, let's say, Shelekach nikra hanazir choter, why is he called a choter? Ki ilu haya ish tam v'yashar mechalkel dvarav b'mishpat. If he was just a good, straightforward person who behaved with moderation, lo haya tzarich lindor ulahazir. He wouldn't need to go through that process. What kind of person says, that's it, all right, I don't want to say the words in case they have halachic value, but if drink wine for a long time, what kind of person says that? Only somebody who's experienced problems with alcohol and problems with self-control is going to take on the first place, who knew how to control himself. He never would have needed to become a Nazir. If you're able to show control in general, then that's fine. You'd be able to achieve these things without making this big proclamation with the halachic value of a neder. Because this individual needed to tie in his commitment with the legal system of Nazirut, it shows that this individual knows that this guy doesn't have brakes spiritually, i.e. he needs an artificial system, something to hold him in place. Al ken hu kofet v'nishba keneged ha'yetzer hara. He jumps up and swears against his yetzer hara. Uvazeh garam la'atzmo tsar. And when you do that, you cause yourself pain. Why? Because if you say that you're not going to have anything for a particular period of time, then that becomes painful for you that you can't have it. Ki kol davar hanadur yitzrot hakfor biyoter. Something you can't have is sometimes far more attractive for your yetzer hara than something which is easily available to you. And I have a bit of rachmanas for the Nazir in approach number 2. I think that if you have somebody who is in that situation and who can't show self-control and feels the need to create
Still talking? It's not.
Okay, look, I've got some.
apologies, I'm back. Yes, I'm sorry about that. I don't know what happened there. I'm back. Where were we up to? Did you hear me say that I've got some rachmanas for the Nazir? First of all, can you hear me? Please wave if you can hear me and your screen is on.
Yes.
Here,
Yes, you
but
can
can't see you.
Great. All right. So hopefully you'll stay with me now, or I'll stay with you. All right. So apparently the internet has been coming in and out the whole session. I apologize.
Yeah.
So we're going to continue trying our best. If you want, we can start again. No, we'll try our best. All right. So here we go. The Kli Yakar, in his second explanation, said that this person is a choteh because if they had self-control to begin with, then they would never have had the need to become a Nazir.
Rabbi,
It
you need
wouldn't
to share your screen again.
in the first place, and the screen is back. And for the fact that the Nazir needed to go through this, it means that there was something lacking in the individual, and the process as a result increases the yetzer hara, because if you make something forbidden to somebody, then it becomes that more attractive to the yetzer hara. When I cut out, what I was saying is that I have some rachmanas for this individual, because if they do lack self-control and they're able to acknowledge that lack of self-control, and they consciously create a system of accountability in order to help them improve their behavior, then I believe that is something which is praiseworthy. And I suppose it is still praiseworthy. This person is still a kadosh, but some people don't even need that in order to reach that kedusha. Approach number 3, the final approach. Just in case the internet cut out, we've seen 2 approaches so far to the question as to why the Nazir is called a choteh. Approach number 1 is that if he's not able to complete the process, then in the first part of the process, he's achieved nothing other than causing himself pain. Answer number 2 is, if he was a straightforward person who showed self-control and moderation to begin with, they never would have needed to become a Nazir and cause themselves the pain of making certain things forbidden to themselves. And now approach number 3. V'od, furthermore, hutzrach lekapar atzmo, because he caused himself pain. I apologize. I've tried 2 different internet connections, so it must be something in the area. I apologize. I'm back now, and I hope you're back with me. We're going to battle on. So, this person requires kapara because they have caused pain to themselves, and v'tachat asher. 1 second, I'm trying to bring the screen back here. Let me go back to the screen. V'tachat asher lo avad et Hashem b'simcha. The Nazir has not served Hashem with simcha. Ki im batzar. He served Hashem, but while experiencing pain. V'hasimcha hora'a al shleimut hapol. And if he really was happy in this process, he would have been more successful in the process. If he was joyous in this process, he would have been even more cautious from impurity. And he never would have reached this situation of falling out halfway through the process. But because he wasn't careful, clearly there was something lacking in the process. And therefore the Yetzer Hara found a way for him actually not to complete the process, which was his innermost desire. Either way, what we see here is a complex relationship that the Torah has towards the Nazir. On the one hand, he is called Kadosh, and he is able to reach an elevated status. On the other hand, certain people don't need Nazirut in order to reach that level. And if he was joyous in his process, he wouldn't have tripped up in that way. And also, there are certain people who perhaps think they might be Nazirim and think they might be achieving extra spirituality by taking on certain stringencies, but it is possible that there is something inherently lacking in that process. I'd now like to look at our final topic, which is Birkat Kohanim. I really hope the internet stay strong for this section. If it falls out again, please do bear with me. During the shiur, I've changed from one internet connection to a different internet connection, one through my mobile and one through the modem, and therefore it must be something in the area and not with one of them. But I'm going to keep going, and please do stay with me. We now reach Birkat Kohanim in source number 8, and he's going to say some really nice things here. Daber el Aaron ve'el banav le'emor, speak to Aaron and his sons as follows. Ko tevarchu et bnei Yisrael, this is how you should bless the Israelites. Amor lahem, say unto them, and then it goes on, Yivarecha Hashem v'yishmerecha, etc. The Kli Yakar in source number 9. Ko tevarchu et bnei Yisrael, samach habrachot lenazirut. He's going to comment on the fact that these brachot are juxtaposed to the concept of the Nazir. Now, especially in the book of Bamidbar, and especially in Parshat Naso, people like drawing connections between the different ingredients and the different elements and the reason why they're placed in the order that they are placed. Now, why does Birkat Kohanim come straight after the Nazir? Ki hayayin kovea bracha la'atzmo, aval lo la'acherim. Wine is something which brings blessing to oneself, but not to others. V'adarabba, not only does it only bring blessing to oneself, it actually doesn't even bring you bracha. It brings wailing and curse to the world. Became garam klala la'adam v'chava, it brought curse to Adam and Chava. Ulezarosh Noach, and the offspring of Noach, ulelot and to Lot. And therefore, we have a contrast here from the Nazir, or from the problems of wine, and then the Nazir who's able to avoid wine, and as a result of avoiding wine, we're amilat ka, the word ka, where it says ka tevarchu et bnei Israel, this is how you should bless the Israelites. Kai a parsha shelamala, it is a reference to the immediate preceding passage. Lomar, to say, the Kohen who stands up to bless is not allowed to be under the influence of wine. Because he has to say the brachot, as it says, Amor lahem, say to them. V'nikra shikar, and the halachic definition of a shikar is anyone who cannot stand and talk in front of a member of royalty. If you're not able to address royalty, if you're not in the right position to address royalty, you are certainly in no position to address Hashem. And therefore, you need to be like Nazirim. And therefore, he says, why does Birkat Kohanim immediately follow the section of the Nazir? Because we need to be like Nazirim. Kohanim needs to be like Nazirim in order to bless others. The next thing we're going to see is something we saw earlier in Parshat Lech Lecha, which he repeats now as well. Amor lahem, say to them. Mikan lamdu chazal, from here where we're told that we have to say things to the Kohanim, our sages taught us, she'achazan makri leKohanim milah b'milah. The Shaliach Tzibur calls out to the Kohen word by word, nusach habrachot, the nusach. So it's Yivarechecha, Yivarechecha, Hashem, Hashem, Yishmarecha, Yishmarecha, etc. Now, why does that have to be the case? We have some very experienced Kohanim in our communities who by now know the words very well. Why do they need to be prompted word by word? The Kli Yakar goes on to explain as follows. The reason is Chazan hu asar, the Chazan is the agent, Hamoshech shefat sinor memakom habrachot tchila, who draws the emanation of blessing through the channels from the source of blessing first, and pours them onto the Kohanim. You see, for the Kohanim to bless the people, what are the Kohanim blessing the people with? With the bracha of Hashem. How do Kohanim receive that bracha? They receive it through the Chazan. So the blessing travels through the Chazan to the Kohanim and from the Kohanim to the people. First, the Chazan blesses the Kohanim. So the Kohen first could be a vessel filled with the blessing of Hashem. And in the next stage, when the Kohen blesses us, he blesses us from a full vessel. If the Kohen was not blessed first, he would be going from a Kli Yakar, from one empty vessel to another empty vessel. The Kli Yakar here is making a very big point. He is saying that in order to bless others, you have to bless yourself first. In order to be able to be a blessing to others, you have to make sure that you yourself are blessed first. If you yourself don't have, I'm now drawing it to a slightly other area, if you lack the energy or the power yourself, how are you supposed to provide energy or power to others? If you lack inspiration yourself, how can you inspire others? If you don't look after yourself, how are you supposed to look after others? First, the Kohanim need to be blessed, and once they are blessed, they are able to bless others. So Hashem says, Amor lahem, pass my blessing onto them, so that the Kohanim who have received blessing can then magnify and transfer that blessing onto others. And we saw this in Parshat Lech Lecha, as he will say now. And now we can explain Masha Ne'emar when it says, I will bless those who bless you, and those who curse you shall be cursed. It's a chiastic structure, A, B, B, A. I will bless the blessers, and the cursers will be cursed. It should have been consistent and say, I will curse those who curse you. Kederach Sha'amar, the same way it says, I will bless those who bless you. Elashar wants to teach us when the Kohen needs to bless us, Hashem will bless the blesser. First, Hashem will provide blessing so that the blesser will be able to bless others. He'll be able to spread this blessing onto us. When it comes to cursing, we don't have to say that. Once somebody has cursed someone else, then I'll curse him and not before. That's why it says, the Kohanim should place Hashem's name on the Israelites, and I will bless them first. First, the Chazan blesses the Kohanim. He's not just prompting the Kohanim. He is creating the channel of blessing through to the Kohanim, so the Kohanim can then be a blessing to everybody else. Let's look at the bracha itself in source number 10. Yivarechecha Hashem v'yishmerecha. May Hashem bless you and keep you. Source number 11. Yivarechecha Hashem v'yishmerecha. בביאור נוסח הברכות רבו הדעות. איש לפי שכלו יפרשם. There are many opinions explaining the brachot. Everyone's got their own explanation. And the Yalkut, you'll find lots of them. Have a look there. I'm not going to go into them in detail. But I want to claim, derech klal ma'achar shekol habrachot matchilim biyud. I want to say something in general, a general point. Please note that all the brachot start off with the letter Yud. Yivarechecha Hashem v'yishmerecha, Ya'er Hashem panav elecha, Yisa Hashem panav elecha. They all start with the yellow Yud. Now, what's special about the letter Yud? Asher hane'elam mimena, the hidden section of the Yud, ola lemisbar eser, reaches 10, kamo hanigleh. The same way as the open structure. Have a look here at the way you spell the word Yud that I'm highlighting now. Yud is spelled Yud Vav Dalet. Now, the revealed section of Yud is the first letter, the Yud. The hidden section of Yud is Vav and Dalet, the letters of Yud that you don't see. Now, the revealed section of Yud has the gematria of 10, and the hidden section of Yud has the gematria of 10. What does that teach us? The hidden section of Yud is Vav and Dalet. Shma mina, learn from here. Shekol habrachot kfulot, all of the blessings are double blessings. Ki chelek mehem el haguf, some of them are physical, v'chelek mehem el hanshama, and some of them are spiritual, an element which is hidden, i.e. the brachot are there for that which is revealed, and also for that which is hidden, which hidden is equal. V'chol esrim hachalakim, and the 3 dots, he explains the 20 parts which a person is made out of, 5 from the mother, 5 from the father, 10 from Hashem. V'chol esrim hachalakim, these 20 parts, elu mitbarchim al yedei sheisa kohen asara etzbotav, the kohen lifts up 10 fingers, and through the 10 fingers, the 2 times 10 is transferred. Because each finger of the 10 fingers confers blessing upon a hidden and a revealed section. A touch of Kabbalah. But let's look at some remez at the top of page 4, our final page of Outside HaRemez. What can we understand here in this bracha? Yesh lefaresh shalosh brachot elu. Let's explain these 3 brachot. Al derech shepirashti lamala b'Parshat Yitro, the way I explained above in Parshat Yitro, the Midrash HaOmer, which says, Shemitchila kara HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yisrael bat. There's a Midrash in Shir HaShirim, which refers to the 3 ways that Hashem relates to us. The first way, let's not be Kabbalistic, let's just be simplistic. The first way is that Hashem calls us a daughter, v'achar kach achot, secondly, a sister, and then Hashem calls us a mother. All of this shows different levels of authority in a relationship. So I didn't bring the psukim, or I'm not giving you any Kabbalistic understandings to this. On a simple level, we start off as a daughter, then we become a sister, then we become a mother. What does that mean? We start off being a daughter. The parent rules over the child. That's a clear hierarchical relationship. And the parent is above, and the daughter is below. Al-Kain Amar, that's why it says, Yivarechecha Hashem v'yishmarecha. What's the direction of Yivarechecha Hashem v'yishmarecha? May Hashem bless you and guard you, look after you, keep an eye on you. That's very much a downward motion. Shetim shoch shefach habrachot milamala, that the emanation of brachot should be drawn from above. Ki hu shomrecha, Hashem is keeping an eye on you, looking after you. The kol shomer lamala min anishmar, the shomer, the guard, is above the one who is being guarded. K'mo shene'emar, as it says in Mishlei, b'shoch b'cha tishmor alecha, look after you when you lie. B'chein rabim, there are many examples. So, Yivarechecha Hashem v'yishmerecha is Hashem blessing us from above, that downward direction, like a parent looking after a child. We then reach the next level. V'achar kach kara achot. we're then called, because siblings means there's an equality relationship. It says, Ya'er Hashem panav elecha, may Hashem shine his face unto you, meaning we have an encounter face to face. The same way that the moon receives light from the sun, when they correspond to each other. So we're not equals with Hashem. There's a big difference between the moon, which reflects the light, and the sun, which is the source of light. But either way, we're going up a level in our relationship. From being a daughter to being siblings, Hashem calls us a sister. That's Ya'er Hashem panav elecha. Hashem's not looking down on us, he's looking at us. And then we reach the third level, which is V'achaken Kara'em. We're considered a mother. Hamoshelet al habat. And the mother is superior to the daughter. Tach tzaddik moshel b'yirat Hashem. Similarly, a tzaddik doesn't control Hashem, but he's in control of his fear of Hashem. The same way that the mother's eyes, the daughter's eyes look up to the mother. Kach yisa Hashem panav elecha. Hashem's face is now looking upwards, kaviyachol, as it were. Let's not get too much into this. If you can find intellect, you'll understand what is going on here. So the Kli Yakar shows the changes in movements in Birkat Kohanim, and the bracha which parents give. Yivarechecha Hashem v'yishmarecha, is Hashem looking down on us to protect us. Ya'er Hashem panav elecha v'chuneka, is Hashem looking towards us, that face-to-face relationship. And then we go up to Yisa Hashem panav elecha. Hashem looks upwards towards us as we travel, as we make the transition from being daughters to being sisters to being mothers, kaviyachol. And there's a lot to be said there and expounded there, but the Kli Yakar has told us not to go into it. The final thing we'd now like to look at is the Nesi'im, which is the lion's share of Parshat Naso, and the Kli Yakar will just tie this all together now. And we start off the Nesi'im and we read, the one who brought his korban on the first day was Nachshon, the son of Aminadav of the tribe of Yehuda. The korbano, and his korban was karat kesef achat. Now for all the other Nesi'im, it just says korbano. It's not the korbano. The first guy goes the korbano, and his korban was karat kesef achad, 1 silver tray, etc., and the other things which made up the offering of each and every Nasi. Source number 13, the Kli Yakar. It's the first one was as follows. Now we discussed why Birkat Kohanim followed on from the Nazir. There are those who discuss why Nazir follows on from Sotah. People draw all the links of the Parsha. Now why is Birkat Kohanim followed by the Parsha of the Nesi'im? He says, because the culmination of the Birkat Kohanim is the word Shalom. V'yasem lecha Shalom. That's the ultimate point of the brachot. Why? Ki im ein Shalom, ein klum. Without peace, you got nothing. Lefichach HaShalom ba b'gmar ha'chatima v'acharon chavev. That's why peace comes at the end of the bracha, and it is the last but most beloved. All the previous brachot are missing something. Each bracha adds on to that which was lacking from the previous brachot. The final bracha lacks nothing, because that is the completion of the process. It doesn't need anything else to come along and complete it. So Birkat Kohanim concludes with Shalom, Shalom which is the ultimate bracha. If you don't have Shalom, you don't have anything. If you do have Shalom, you do have everything, because Shalom needs nothing else. Al Kain, therefore, HaMidrash Mishabeach v'omer Gadol HaShalom Shuchotel HaBrachot, the Midrashim praise Shalom. V'amru od, they said, Gadol HaShalom Sha'afilo Hametin Tzrichim Lo. Even those who've passed away need peace. Well, how do we know that those who've passed away need shalom? Ne'emar, as it says, V'ata tavo al avotecha b'shalom. You should come upon your fathers b'shalom. And we also bless v'yanuchu b'shalom. We want people to rest in peace. Now, why do those who've passed away need shalom? Ein ha'perush yesh eze ktata It doesn't mean that there's an argument going on underground in Springvale between the Meitim or up in Shamayim. There's no argument between the Meitim. That they need shalom where they are. Those who've passed away need there to be shalom between those who are alive. If there's no shalom between those who are living, and we curse each other, or we disparage, disgrace each other, not only will we speak badly of each other, we're going to start speaking badly of those who've passed away as well. If we don't have shalom where we are, then even those who are resting in the dirt, in the ground, will not have menucha. Bekever, where they are lying in their graves, miriv l'shanot shalachayim, from our arguments. And he says, as is unfortunately very common in our generation. Al kain, therefore, tzrichin hametim sheyesh shalom ben achayim. Those who've passed away require there to be peace between those who are alive, and then they will be able to rest in peace. So when we want people to rest in peace, it doesn't mean that they need peace and there's any argument where they are, but they should rest in peace where we are. We need there to be peace where we are in order to enable those where they are to have peace. And in certain family situations and certain complex situations, it can be an important reminder for families that the passing of somebody, when it unfortunately leads to tension in this world, prevents peace for those who've passed away. And if we want them to rest in peace, we have to create shalom amongst ourselves, because they require shalom in our world for them to experience shalom in their world. And he concludes by saying this is why Birkat Kohanim is followed by the Parsha of the Nisiim. After shalom, the ultimate bracha, is mentioned, we have a parsha which is all about peace. That's why the korban of Nachshon ben Aminadav is introduced as being and his korban bevav ha'ituf, with a conjunctive vav, as if someone else came first. He shouldn't say, I came first. No, we start off his korban, or even though he was first, saying, and his korban, to connect him in. It's like to wrap him in with all the other ones. Gamlo is kirbo shem nasi. He's not called nasi, as opposed to the others who receive a title. So he shouldn't lift himself up saying, Ani amloch, I'm going to king. That's a very, very Kabbalistic phrase, which I won't explain now. But on a simple level, he shouldn't say, I am the king. Pride is the source of every argument and every affliction. That's why the Torah goes at such length for all the korbanot, for all 12 tribes. So no one should appear in any way secondary to their friend. This is all about shalom. So we have 3 sections in a row which are all connected. We start off with the section of the Nazir, where we have an interesting debate or view as to how we're supposed to understand the fact that they avoid wine. Following that section, we reach Birkat Kohanim, because the Kohanim can't be under the influence of wine when they give their bracha. The Birkat Kohanim concludes with Shalom, the ultimate bracha, and that is followed by the Parsha of Nisiim, which is the Parsha all about Shalom. And that's how we're going to conclude today's shiur. I apologize for the technical difficulties, but Ezrat Hashem, we'll try not to have those again. And thank you for your patience during the shiur.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Koyach.